My husband wanted a divorce and demanded the house, the cars, my entire life. Everyone told me to fight, even my lawyer. I didn't. I let him take it all. They thought I was weak. At the final hearing, I signed everything away. Unaware to him, I'd already secured my freedom until a few quiet words changed his face forever. My husband looked across the conference table with the kind of cold satisfaction that comes from someone who believes they've already won. He wanted the house, the cars, my business, everything we'd built together over 12 years of marriage. He wasn't negotiating. He wasn't asking. He was taking, like our entire life together was just a transaction he was closing, and I was the fool who'd signed the bad deal. My lawyer, Patricia Hendricks, grabbed my wrist under the table hard enough that I knew there'd be marks later. She'd been practicing family law for 28 years, and when I told her what I was planning to do, the color drained from her face completely. Sophia, don't do this. We can fight him. We should fight him. He's not entitled to half of what he's demanding. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and help us reach 100K subscribers before the new year. We're so close to this incredible milestone, and your subscription could be the one that gets us there. Hit subscribe now and join our community. Let's celebrate together. I looked at her, then back at Marcus sitting across from me with that smug expression I used to find charming. The same face I'd kissed goodnight for over a decade. The same man who'd held me when my father died. The same person who promised before God and our families that he'd stand by me through everything. Give it all to him, I said quietly. Patricia dropped her pen. Excuse me, you heard me. The house, the cars, the business. Give him everything he wants. Marcus's smile flickered. Just for a second. He wasn't expecting that. His lawyer, a slick operator named Gregory Whitman, leaned over and whispered something in his ear. Marcus nodded slowly, like a predator who'd just cornered wounded prey. He thought he'd broken me. He thought I was surrendering. Everyone did. My mother called that night, her voice shaking with tears. Elena Cortez had raised 3 daughters on her own after my father passed from cancer. She'd worked double shifts as a hospital administrator, sacrificed everything so my sisters and I could have futures. Now she was watching her youngest daughter hand over her entire life to a man who didn't deserve a single second of it. Sophia, please. Your father poured everything into Cortez Commercial Interiors. You can't just give it away. You can't. Mom, I need you to trust me. Trust you? Mija, you're not thinking straight. You're hurt. You're angry. Let me call your sisters. Let us help you. I'm not angry, Mom, I said, and I meant it. Not anymore. And I promise you, I know exactly what I'm doing. She didn't believe me. I could hear it in her silence. That tremor of fear that her daughter had finally snapped under the weight of betrayal. My older sister Isabella showed up at my apartment the next morning. She's a defense attorney, sharp as broken glass, protective to a fault. She'd never liked Marcus, made that clear from the day I introduced them. But she kept quiet for 12 years because she loved me and respected my choices. She didn't keep quiet that day. You're telling me you're going to let him walk away with everything? The business Dad started? The house we helped you renovate? You're just going to hand it over? Yes. Why? I pulled out a folder, thick, bursting with documents, bank statements, invoices, emails, canceled checks. I slid it across my kitchen table. Because he doesn't know what he's really taking. Isabella opened the folder. He read the first page, then the second. By the 5th page, her jaw was set and her hands were trembling. Is this real? Every word. And he has no idea I found it. Not a clue. Not one. She closed the folder and looked at me. Really looked at me, for the first time since this nightmare started. Then she smiled. Little sister, you might be the most dangerous woman I've ever met. See, everyone thought I was broken. They thought I'd given up. They saw a woman who walked into divorce proceedings and waved the white flag without throwing a single punch. But they didn't know what I knew. They didn't see what I'd found buried in 4 years of financial records. They didn't understand that sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight harder. It's to step aside and let your enemy walk straight into the trap they built for themselves. So when I walked into that courtroom for the final hearing, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I wasn't defeated. I was patient. My name is Sophia Cortez, and this is the story of how I lost everything to win it all back. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, in a neighborhood where people knew your name and your business. My father, Antonio Cortez, was an interior designer who specialized in commercial spaces, hotels, restaurants, corporate offices. He started Cortez Commercial Interiors in 1985, working out of our converted garage with nothing but a drafting table, a phone line, and a vision that most people thought was insane. By the time I was 10, I was helping him pick fabric swatches and color palettes. By 16, I could read architectural blueprints better than most contractors. I loved the work, loved transforming cold, empty spaces into environments where people wanted to be. My sisters went different directions. Isabella became a lawyer. Carmen became a pediatrician. But me, I stayed with Dad's company. I loved creating something beautiful with my hands, solving design problems other people walked away from. Dad died of pancreatic cancer when I was 28. Found out in March, gone by August. The doctors said it was aggressive, said there was nothing they could do. I held his hand in hospice while he made me promise to keep the business alive. Don't let it die with me, Mija. You've got the eye. You've got the heart. Promise me. I promised. He left me Cortez Commercial Interiors, 8 employees, a solid reputation in the Southwest, and a legacy I swore I would protect with everything I had. I met Marcus 3 years before Dad passed. He was working as a project manager for a construction firm we were partnering with on a boutique hotel renovation in Scottsdale. He had this confidence that filled a room, made you believe he could solve any problem. He made me laugh when I was drowning in work stress, made me feel like I was more than just my father's daughter. We dated for 18 months, got married at a small vineyard outside Sedona. My mother cried happy tears. Isabella gave a toast that had everyone in stitches. Marcus looked at me during our first dance like I was his entire world. For a while I believed I was. We didn't have children. I'd thrown myself into growing the business and Marcus said he wasn't ready. Let's build our empire first, he'd say. Kids can come later. Those were good years. Hard years but good ones. I worked 50 to 60 hours a week expanding the company. We landed bigger contracts. Luxury condos, high-end restaurants, corporate headquarters. I wasn't getting rich but I was building something that made Dad proud wherever he was. But somewhere around year 8 Marcus changed. It happened slowly like a foundation settling unevenly. You don't notice until cracks start appearing in the walls. He stopped asking about my projects. He started complaining about our house. Even though we'd spent a year renovating it exactly how he wanted. He wanted a bigger place, newer cars, vacations to places we couldn't quite afford yet. Everyone else is moving up, Sophia. Why are we stuck in neutral? We're not stuck. We're building something sustainable. Building what? This. He gestured around our living room like it was a prison. You signed up for this life. You signed up for me. He didn't answer. He just walked to the bedroom and shut the door. I told myself it was stress. I convinced myself that if I just worked harder, landed bigger clients, made more money, things would get better. They didn't. He quit his project management job, said he wanted to focus on our future. But our future seemed to involve him playing golf 4 times a week and spending hours on his phone while I worked 12-hour days. That's when I hired Ethan Caldwell. I needed help with the business financials. The company had grown too complex for me to manage the books alone. A colleague recommended Ethan, said he was brilliant with numbers, trustworthy, professional. Ethan showed up to our first meeting in a tailored suit with a portfolio full of success stories. He talked about optimization and growth strategies and efficiency models. He made me feel like I'd been leaving money on the table my whole career, but he could fix it. So I gave him access to everything, every bank account, every contract, every financial record Cortez Commercial Interiors had ever produced. Looking back, I can see how reckless that was. But I was exhausted. I was trying to save my marriage. I was trying to honor my father's legacy. I didn't have energy left to question a man who came with glowing references. Ethan started coming to the house for dinner meetings. Marcus loved him. They'd talk sports, investments, business philosophy. Marcus laughed more at Ethan's jokes than he'd laughed at anything I'd said in months. The signs were everywhere but I was blind. My mother tried to warn me. Elena Cortez doesn't speak without purpose. So when she pulled me aside after Sunday dinner one evening, I should have listened. Something's not right, Mija. The way Marcus looks at you now, it's like you're a stranger. And that accountant of yours. Mom, please, not this. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Marcus and I are going through a rough patch. We'll work it out. I was so wrong. It was a Wednesday in April when my world shattered. I had a client meeting scheduled at a resort in Paradise Valley, but the client's assistant called that morning. Family emergency, need to reschedule. I decided to go home early, maybe surprise Marcus with lunch from his favorite Italian place. I pulled into our driveway around noon. His car was there. The house was quiet. Marcus, you home? No answer. I set the takeout on the kitchen counter, walked through the living room. Nothing. I figured maybe he was napping. He'd been complaining about insomnia. I headed upstairs. The bedroom door was closed. I could hear something on the other side, voices, movement, muffled laughter. My heart started racing before my brain understood why. I pushed open that door, and there they were. Marcus and Ethan Caldwell. In our bed. In our house. In the room where I'd cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count. Time stopped. I couldn't breathe. I just stood there, frozen, staring at the 2 people I'd trusted most in the world, tangled together like I didn't exist. Sophia, wait. Let me explain. Explain what, Marcus? Explain how long you've been sleeping with our accountant. Ethan was scrambling for his clothes wouldn't meet my eyes. How long? I asked again. Marcus pulled the sheet around himself. About 2 years. 2 years. 24 months of lies. Of anniversary dinners and birthday celebrations and promises while he was destroying everything behind my back. Get out of my house. Sophia, let's talk about this rationally, Ethan said, moving toward the door. Business is business. I stepped in front of him. I'm 5'4", but in that moment I felt 10 feet tall. Business? You've eaten at my table. You've given me advice on my father's company. You looked me in the eye every week and lied to my face. I think you're overreacting. I grabbed my phone. Get out now or I'm calling the police and reporting you for trespassing. Your choice. He left. Didn't even glance at Marcus. Marcus started crying. Real tears or performance, I couldn't tell anymore. Sophia, please. I was lonely. You're always working. I needed someone who understood me. I've worked 60-hour weeks to build the life you said you wanted. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to me instead of that company. That company is my father's legacy. And apparently, it was the only thing keeping this marriage alive. 10 days later, Marcus filed for divorce. But he didn't just want out, he wanted everything. The house, both vehicles, full custody of our Bernese mountain dog Luna, and Cortez Commercial Interiors. The company my father built, the company I dedicated my adult life to growing. His lawyer sent a demand letter that made me physically ill. Marcus claimed he'd been an unpaid partner in building the business, deserved compensation for years of emotional support and domestic sacrifice. Patricia called me the same day. Sophia, this is robbery. He's not entitled to the business. We can destroy this claim. Not yet, Patricia. There's something I need to verify first. That night I drove to the office. I pulled every financial record from the last 4 years. Bank statements, invoices, vendor contracts, email correspondence, check ledgers. I spread them across my father's old desk and started reading. By midnight I'd found the first fabricated invoice. By 3 a.m. I'd found 19 more. By sunrise I'd uncovered nearly $580,000 in fraudulent transactions, shell companies, fake vendors, payments for materials and services that never existed. And on more than half of those authorization forms, right there in digital signature, was my husband's approval. Marcus wasn't just cheating on me, he was systematically robbing me blind. And he thought he was going to walk away with everything. I sat in my sister Isabella's home office the next morning, the evidence folder between us. 4 years of theft. More than $500,000, fake invoices, phantom vendors, forged contracts, and Marcus's digital fingerprints on nearly everything. My first instinct was to confront him, throw these documents in his face, call the police, watch him arrested in handcuffs. But then I stopped myself. Marcus was calculating. If I tipped my hand now, he'd find a way to cover his tracks, destroy evidence, blame Ethan. He'd twist the narrative until he looked like the victim. I needed a different approach. Isabella, I need you to help me find a forensic accountant. Someone who can document this properly. Someone who can build a case that will stand up in federal court. Federal court? Sophia, what are you planning? Marcus wants Cortez Commercial Interiors. He's demanding it in the divorce. If I fight him, he'll dig in, hide evidence, drag this out for years. But if I give it to him willingly, Isabella's eyes widened. He inherits legal responsibility for every transaction the company made. Exactly. That's either brilliant or insane. Probably both. Can you help me? She finished her coffee and set the mug down firmly. I know someone. Works with the U.S. Attorney's Office on Financial Crimes. Let me make some calls. 4 days later, I was sitting in a glass conference room with a forensic accountant named Victoria Brennan. She was a woman in her early 50s with sharp eyes and a reputation for taking down white-collar criminals. I handed her everything. Every statement, every invoice, every email trail. She spent 3 weeks analyzing it all, building timelines, tracing money flows, documenting the systematic theft. When she finished, she called me back to her office. Ms. Cortez, you have an exceptionally strong case here. This isn't amateur hour. This is organized embezzlement. Your husband and your accountant have been running a coordinated scheme for at least 48 months. What are my options? Civil suit would take years and cost a fortune. Given the scope and the interstate wire transfers involved, I'd recommend the federal route. The FBI's Economic Crimes Unit handles cases like this. Wire fraud alone carries up to 20 years. And if my husband takes ownership of the company before charges are filed? Victoria smiled. Then he assumes full legal liability for everything that company has done. Every fraudulent transaction, every fake vendor payment, every dollar that disappeared, it all becomes his responsibility. I shook her hand and walked out of that office feeling something I hadn't felt in months: hope. The next several weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend, had to sit across from Marcus in mediation sessions and act defeated. Watch him smirk while Gregory Whitman listed demand after demand. Patricia thought I was having a breakdown. Sophia, I'm begging you, let me fight this. We have grounds to contest everything. No. We agree to his terms. The house. Give it to him. The vehicles. Give them to him. The business your father built with his own hands. All of it, Patricia. Every last piece. She threw her legal pad on the table. I've been doing this for 28 years. I've never seen a client so determined to self-destruct. I'm not self-destructing. I'm setting a trap. She stared at me for a long moment. What do you know that I don't? Nothing you need to worry about yet. When the time comes, everything will make sense. My mother was harder to convince. She showed up at my apartment one evening with homemade tamales and tears streaming down her face. Mija, please, that company is all we have left of your father. I took her hands in mine. Mom, do you trust me? Of course I do. Then believe me when I tell you Dad would understand. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. And I promise you when this is over you'll understand why. She hugged me and held on like she was afraid to let go. The day of the final hearing arrived on a gray Tuesday morning in November. I woke at 5 a.m., old habits. I showered, dressed in a simple navy pantsuit my father had loved, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, older than 36. But underneath the exhaustion there was something else. Something calm, something steady. Today was the day. I drove to the courthouse alone. Isabella offered to come but I told her to stay on standby. Mom wanted to be there but I asked her to wait by the phone. This was something I needed to do myself. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an Arizona state flag hanging limply in the corner. It smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. Marcus was already there, sitting at the plaintiff's table with Gregory Whitman. He wore an expensive suit I'd probably paid for and that same cold smile. I nodded at him and took my seat next to Patricia. Last chance, Sophia. I can still object. No, Patricia. We stick to the plan. What plan? You're giving him everything. Trust me. The judge entered. A stern woman named Judge Marianne Holbrook with silver hair and sharp eyes. She'd seen 1,000 divorces. Ours was just another file. She reviewed the settlement terms aloud. The residential property at 2847 Desert Vista Drive transferred to Marcus Holloway. The 2022 Audi Q7 and 2023 Tesla Model S transferred to Marcus Holloway. Full ownership of Cortez Commercial Interiors, including all assets, contracts, equipment, intellectual property and financial accounts, along with all associated liabilities, transferred to Marcus Holloway. All assets and liabilities. Those words hung in the air like smoke. Miss Cortez, do you understand and accept these terms? I do, Your Honor. And you're entering into this agreement voluntarily without coercion? Yes, Your Honor. Patricia shifted beside me. I could feel her frustration radiating like heat. The judge slid documents across her bench. Very well. Please sign where indicated. I stood, walked to the bench, picked up the pen. Marcus watched me with barely concealed triumph. He thought he'd won. Thought he'd broken me so completely I didn't have strength left to fight. I signed my name on every page. Steady hand, clear signature, no hesitation. When I finished, I turned and looked at Marcus one last time. He was already whispering to Gregory, probably planning how to liquidate my father's company for maximum profit. I returned to my seat. Judge Holbrook was about to close the proceedings when the courtroom doors opened. 3 people walked in. 2 men in dark suits with federal badges visible on their belts. 1 woman carrying a manila envelope, Victoria Brennan. The entire room went silent. The first agent walked directly to Gregory Whitman and handed him the envelope. I watched Gregory's face change, the confidence draining like water from a cracked vessel. His skin went pale. His hands trembled as he read. What is it? Marcus demanded. What's wrong? Gregory turned to him, leaned close and whispered 6 words. Ethan Caldwell was just arrested. You're next. For a heartbeat, Marcus didn't react. He just stared at Gregory like he was speaking a foreign language. Then he grabbed the document. I watched his eyes move across the page. I watched the color drain from his face. I watched his lips start to tremble. The document was a federal indictment. Wire fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit financial crimes. 2 names listed as defendants. Ethan James Caldwell and Marcus David Holloway. Marcus stood so fast his chair toppled backward. No, this isn't right. This is a mistake. Judge Holbrook banged her gavel. Mr. Holloway, compose yourself. You don't understand. This was all Ethan. I just signed what he told me to sign. The female agent stepped forward. Mr. Holloway, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Marcus spun toward me, his perfect composure shattered. His voice came out as a scream. You did this. You set me up. You knew. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, hands folded, and looked at him calmly. You gave me the company because you knew it was poisoned. You let me take it so I'd take the blame. You planned this whole thing. Judge Holbrook banged her gavel again. Order. I will have order. But Marcus wasn't listening. He lunged toward me. The bailiff caught him before he made it 2 steps. I'll destroy you, Sophia. I swear to God I'll. I stood slowly, smoothed my jacket and looked him straight in the eyes. You already tried, Marcus. You've been trying for 4 years. But here's the thing about building a life on lies. Eventually the foundation cracks and everything comes crashing down. The bailiff escorted him out. He was still screaming my name when the doors closed. Patricia sat beside me in stunned silence. Finally she spoke. You knew this whole time. I knew. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed it to be real, Patricia. I needed him to believe he'd won. I needed him to take ownership of that company with his own signature on every document. Because the moment he did, he became legally responsible for every crime committed under its name. Patricia let out a breath and shook her head. In 28 years of practicing law, I have never seen anything like that. I picked up my bag and walked out of that courtroom. The Arizona sun was shining outside. First time in months I'd really noticed. 8 months have passed since that day. Ethan Caldwell pleaded guilty to 14 counts of wire fraud and embezzlement. He's currently serving 32 months in federal prison. His CPA license was permanently revoked. The man who sat at my dinner table while stealing from my family will spend the next 2.5 years staring at concrete walls. Marcus's case took longer. He hired 4 different lawyers trying to fight the charges. He claimed manipulation, coercion, ignorance. None of it worked. The forensic evidence was overwhelming. His digital signatures were on the authorizations. His email account was linked to the shell companies. His involvement was undeniable. In the end he took a plea deal, 4 years probation, 300 hours community service, full restitution of stolen funds, which meant liquidating everything he'd fought so hard to take from me. The house went into foreclosure when he couldn't make payments. The cars were repossessed. Cortez Commercial Interiors was dissolved by court order. Its contracts cancelled. Its equipment sold at auction. He lost everything. Not because I took it from him, but because he took it from himself. I won't lie, there was satisfaction in watching it collapse. After everything he did, every lie and betrayal, part of me wanted to see him suffer. But that feeling faded faster than I expected. Revenge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It doesn't heal anything. It just keeps you chained to the person who hurt you. If I let it go, I started over with nothing but my talent, my reputation, and my father's training. I filed paperwork for a new company, Cortez Design Studio. Smaller, simpler, cleaner. Built from the ground up with no partners I didn't trust. No secrets hiding in the books. My old team came back. Every single one of them. My lead designer, Rachel Kim, showed up on my first day in the new office with champagne and a handshake. Heard you're hiring, boss. Pay will be lower for a while until we rebuild. Don't care. I'd rather work for someone with integrity making less than work for a fraud making more. We landed our first contract 3 weeks later. A boutique hotel owner in Tucson who'd heard the truth. Not the gossip, but what really happened. Sophia, I've been in hospitality for 30 years. I've seen people go through what you went through and come out bitter or broken. You came out standing. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. That one call led to 5 more. Within 6 months, Cortez Design Studio had more work than I could handle. I hired 3 new designers and leased a second office space. My mother cried when she saw the new studio. She stood in the doorway with her hand over her heart, looking at the sign I'd hung above the entrance. Your father would be so proud, Mija. I hope so, Mom. I know so. You did what he always taught you. You stayed honest, you stayed patient, and you let the truth do the work. Isabella comes by every Sunday now. We sit on Mom's patio, drink wine, and watch the desert sunset. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. Either way, it feels like home. Looking back, I learned something profound through all this. Strength isn't about fighting every battle. It's about knowing which battles to fight, and which ones to let go. It's about trusting that the truth will surface, even when lies seem to be winning. It's about protecting your peace, your integrity, and the people who matter most. My husband wanted everything. I gave it to him. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every consequence he'd earned. He thought he was taking my future, but all he took was his own. Me. I'm still here, still creating, still standing. Because some things can't be stolen. Character, integrity, the love of your family, the respect of good people. Those things have to be earned. And once you earn them, no one can take them away. If you're going through something hard right now, if someone has betrayed you, broken your trust, made you feel like you've lost everything, I want you to hear this. You haven't lost. Not yet. Not ever. As long as you stay true to who you are, as long as you keep moving forward with honesty and patience, you will find your way through. The storm doesn't last forever, but the person you become while weathering it stays with you for the rest of your life. My name is Sofia Cortez, and that's my story. This story of strategic justice had you on the edge of your seat. Hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Sofia signed everything away, knowing exactly what trap she'd set. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more thrilling stories like this. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.